The smartest people in any room are looking for one thing, and it has absolutely nothing to do with your credentials, your job title, or your bank account. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what that one thing is, and how to use it to turn social anxiety into genuine connection. The alternative is to keep using a strategy that makes you functionally invisible. And chances are, you're using that exact strategy every time you feel outmatched. You feel it the moment you walk in. A biological switch flips. Your hearing gets a little sharper, your posture changes, and an internal monologue kicks into overdrive, calculating, comparing, and concluding that you're out of your depth. This is a threat response. Your brain's ancient survival hardware has identified a social hierarchy, and it has placed you on a lower rung. This machinery evolved to keep you from being exiled from the tribe. Exile meant death. So your brain floods your system with cortisol, urging you to do one of two things: become invisible or desperately try to prove your worth. Freeze or fawn. That hot feeling in your chest, the sudden scramble for something clever to say, the metallic taste of anxiety, that's a survival circuit misfiring in a modern world. It's treating a cocktail party like a life or death negotiation for your place in the pack. This response is ancient, primal. It happens before you consciously form a thought. And that ancient part of your brain has one goal: don't get kicked out. The problem is, both of its default strategies are catastrophic in a high-status environment. Freezing makes you a wallflower, a ghost at the table. Fawning, the act of trying too hard to please, is even worse. This impulse to prove you belong is the single greatest mistake you can make. It pushes you into a game you have already lost. You start trying to match their vocabulary, subtly hint at your own accomplishments, or laugh a little too hard at their jokes. This is impression management, and it reeks of insecurity. People with genuine status, whether intellectual or financial, have incredibly sensitive detectors for this. They live in a world of people trying to get something from them, and your attempt to keep up feels like just another transaction. It's exhausting for them, and it's draining for you. But what if this entire mechanism, this ancient wiring, could be used to your advantage? Its predictability is a weakness. It can be reverse engineered. The first step is a radical frame shift. You must consciously change your role in the room. Stop being a performer trying to win an audition. Become an anthropologist, a journalist. Your goal is no longer to impress. Your goal is to understand. This shift is profound because it moves the spotlight of your attention from yourself to them. All that energy you were spending on self-monitoring, how do I sound? What should I say next? Do they think I'm smart? Is now redirected outward. As pure curiosity, this instantly lowers your cortisol. It short-circuits the threat response because you are no longer the one being evaluated. You have become the evaluator. You've given yourself a job, a purpose, in the room that has nothing to do with your own status. You're a collector of data, of stories, of models of the world. Imagine the difference between being pushed on stage to give an impromptu speech versus sitting in the audience with a notepad, asked to write a profile of the speaker. Same room, same people, entirely different biology. But just observing can feel passive. It's the next step that turns this internal shift into a powerful social tool. This brings us to the one thing that truly intelligent and successful people crave: a thinking partner, someone who can help them sharpen their own ideas. You achieve this with a specific tool, the second-order question. A first-order question collects facts. What do you do? Where did you go to school? How long have you worked in that industry? These are boring. They are the social script of strangers, and they require nothing from the other person except a recitation of their resume. A second-order question explores the thinking behind the facts. It asks about meaning, about process, about surprises. It invites them to teach, to reflect, to access a part of their brain that routine conversation rarely touches. For example, someone tells you they're an architect. First-order question: what kind of buildings do you design? Second-order question: what's the most common misconception people have about what makes a building feel good to be in? Someone says they're in finance. First-order question: is it a good time to invest? First-order question: what are you researching? Second-order question: what's the most elegant experiment you've ever come across in your field, even if it wasn't your own? First, they show you are listening to their answer, not just waiting for your turn to talk. Second, they grant the other person the status of an expert, of a teacher, which is intrinsically rewarding. You are validating their expertise in a way that a simple compliment never could. You're handing them the gift of their own insight. Third, and most importantly, these questions reveal your intelligence more effectively than any statement you could ever make. They demonstrate curiosity, mental agility, and an interest in how the world works. You are showcasing the quality of your mind by the quality of your questions. You force them to think. And the person who makes a brilliant person think becomes a peer. Suddenly, you're having a conversation that nobody else in the room is having. But what about when the status difference is purely financial? Asking a billionaire about the most counterintuitive part of their job might still work, but there's a more direct and often more effective tool. When you're in a room where you are drastically out-earned, the status game is even more pronounced, and the temptation to play it is stronger. People start name-dropping vacation spots, talking about schools, cars, or renovations. Trying to compete here is a fool's errand. You can't, so you take a different path. The currency you possess is perspective. Extreme wealth creates an insulating bubble. A person's world can shrink down to a very specific set of problems, a very specific social circle, a very specific way of seeing things. You, coming from a different world, are a window. Your value is your vantage point. This means you don't talk about their world. You bring them an interesting problem or an insightful observation from yours. You talk about the surprisingly complex logistical puzzle of organizing a volunteer food drive. You share a fascinating, funny, or absurd observation about human nature you learned from working a retail job. You describe a clever system you developed to solve a common problem that money usually just throws itself at. You are giving them a report from the front lines of a reality they no longer have access to. The key is to present it as a fascinating puzzle, not as a complaint. You're not asking for pity, you're offering insight. You are a portal to a world they've forgotten, and that is far more compelling than another person who summers in the same place they do. The rich are surrounded by mirrors. You have the opportunity to be a window. It's a rare and valuable thing. But there is one final mistake that can poison this entire approach. One reflexive habit that will undo all your good work in a single phrase. It's the qualifier, the preemptive apology. This might be a dumb question, or I know I'm not an expert in this field, or speaking as someone who's just a teacher, these phrases are poison. They are a subconscious plea for social charity. You are broadcasting your insecurity and asking the other person to manage it for you. You are apologizing for your own existence in the room. This immediately re-establishes the very status hierarchy you're trying to escape. It frames your contribution as lesser than before you've even made it. High-status people are often allergic to this kind of self-deprecation. They don't want to be burdened with your lack of confidence. Critics might argue that this is just humility. This is a misunderstanding of humility. Humility is being secure enough in your own worth that you can be endlessly curious about others. Humility is asking a powerful question because you genuinely want to know the answer. Apology is needing reassurance that you're allowed to ask at all. One is an act of confidence. The other is a plea for validation. Ask your question, make your observation, own your perspective, state it cleanly, without apology. The confidence comes from the sincerity of your curiosity, not from the depth of your knowledge. So the strategy is clear. Shift your frame from performer to observer. Use second-order questions to engage intellect. Offer your unique perspective to bridge financial gaps. And never ever apologize for being in the room. This leads to the final, most important realization. That room you were so afraid of isn't a hierarchy you need to climb. It's a library. Every person in it is a book filled with decades of unique experiences, hard-won lessons, and specialized knowledge. And in a library, the most important person is not the most beautifully bound book or the one with the most prestigious author. The most important person is the one with the library card, the reader. Your real fear walking into that room was never about being outmatched. It was about having nothing of value to offer. The shift is realizing your genuine, unapologetic curiosity is the most valuable offer of all. This same mechanism, this shift from being a performer to an observer, also explains the most effective way to handle public speaking. The goal is to focus entirely on what the audience needs to learn, which is a different kind of social pressure entirely.